The first year I was president, I cut the federal deficit by $350 billion.
Being sued for our voter ID law. Where do you think that's going?
Well, we'll see in court.
The Putin tax increase.
One lane. I'm asking one lane before I go to prison, bro. One lane before I go to prison.
Are they peaceful?
Joe Biden continues to brag about something that he didn't do and actively tried to do the opposite of. The Arizona governor said, yeah, we're going to see you in court over our lawsuit. Oregon postpones the meeting because apparently urgency is white supremacy. Antifa is still alive and well in Portland. And protesters block a Maryland freeway, forcing a guy who was trying to get to work to go to jail. Holy cow, so much to talk to today. This is Daily Caller Live. Thanks so much for tuning in. My name is Jobob. Daily Caller Live starts right now.
2, 1.
Here we go.
That might be the only brown guy on earth named Jobob.
That is actually their name, Jobob.
Ooh, live from the dingy bunker, completely cut off from the outside world, except for you, fine folks. My name is Jobob. This is Daily Caller Live. On today, it is July 7th, the year of our Lord 2022. Thanks so much for tuning in. Got a lot to cover, and we're going to get right to it. Joe Biden, whenever he finds a microphone, my job gets so much easier. I tweeted this yesterday, and maybe I'm supposed to say that, maybe I'm not supposed to say that. But anytime Joe Biden stumbles his way onto a stage or finds a microphone, I just have cannon fodder for the next day. Here is Joe Biden in Ohio talking about, who knows what he's talking about? I don't even think he knows what he's talking about. But we only have 2 clips of this. We're not going to belabor on Joe Biden continuing to sound like a guy who doesn't know what he sounds like. We're not going to stay on this too long, but just because this is so pertinent to everyone's everyday life and should know what he's saying and the things that he's pulling over on Democrat voters, we kind of need to talk about it. This is Joe Biden in Ohio from yesterday talking about the deficit. The deficit, okay, so just to set this up, Joe Biden a couple months ago started talking about, well, we've cut the deficit of federal spending. In his first year in office, and you'll hear him say this, in his first year in office, he cut the federal deficit by like $300 billion or something. Here's the problem, and this was pretty recognizable very, very early on by everyone, including all of your right-wing outlets and all of your not right-wing outlets. I believe the Washington Post gave this for Pinocchio, saying, I cut the federal deficit. He didn't actually cut the federal deficit. The federal deficit was not increased because he failed to get his legislation through. Remember, the whole Build Back Better thing was like 3.5 up to maybe like $6 trillion of new spending. And that didn't get through the Senate. So now he's going around bragging, look at all the money we saved. Okay, so that happened a couple months ago, right? When he first made that statement, and everyone was like, dude, that's BS. Nobody believes that. Yesterday, not a couple weeks ago, yesterday in Ohio, he said the same thing again, despite everybody already for the last couple of weeks telling him that no, this is not a legitimate talking point. Check this out, and you'll see for yourself that he's still trying to push this nonsense. Also, if you have a chance or have the ability, would really, really appreciate you just clicking the little like button or the little share button over here, or even any of the little emojis, or giving a comment. Just engaging with the post in some way, shape, or form really, really helps us out with our Facebook overlords and the algorithm. Helps us out to get to more people. So without that further ado, here's Joe Biden yesterday claiming something that we all know to be false for the last several months now.
As president, the first year I was president, I cut the federal deficit by $350 billion. And you know how much I cut it this year? Cut this year. By the end of September, I will have cut the federal budget by $1,400 billion. Cut the deficit.
All right. So the first part, again, is what we just explained. He's going around bragging about, hey, I didn't spend $300 trillion in deficit money. So we have a deficit now. Now, okay, we'll get into that. The main thing is he tried to pass a $3.5 trillion Build Back Better nonsense, and thanks to Joe Manchin, it didn't pass. Now everybody's thanking Joe Manchin, including Joe Scarborough. We did an episode on that a couple weeks ago. So that is what it is. Now he's continuing to say, well, I'm going to cut the deficit or cut the budget even further. Here's the thing. When you're talking about cutting the federal budget, you have to relate it to a year that made sense. And by that, I mean not a year with COVID. Joe Biden is continually going back to the year 2020 and saying, relative to 2020, which we spent more money in 2020 than any government, not even any government, any entity has ever spent in the history of the universe. If you relate it to 2020, Joe Biden says, we've cut the federal budget by this much. Of course, if you were to relate it to a 2018, 2019, for example, he wouldn't be able to say any of that sort of stuff. So not only is this whole, I cut the federal deficit by $300 billion in my first year, complete nonsense, and everybody, including the Washington Post and the New York Times, agrees with that, but his new thing of I'm cutting the budget even further is, again, not on you. It's just a disingenuous argument he's making based on the fact that 2020, we spent way more money than we've ever spent, ever. So relating it to that is just simply nonsense. However, he also is going around in Ohio saying things. So hold on. Shoot, I want to bring this comment up, but we'll get it in a couple seconds. So he also in Ohio said something about why gas prices are so high, and I think you can probably guess who he's going to blame. Actually, let me know in the comment section. I'll give you, 30 seconds to guess who President Biden is blaming for higher prices and higher gas and all of the things that are up that he's not taking credit for. All right, that's less than 30 seconds. It's Putin. Check this out.
We got a long way to go because of inflation, because of I call it the Putin tax increase. Putin, because of gasoline and all that grain he's keeping from being able to get to the market.
Okay, so now we're on to another. The Putin price hike didn't work. Maybe we'll try the Putin tax hike or Putin tax increase. That doesn't say. There's no alliteration there. I don't think that's going to catch on. Remember we did a story last week where there was believe it was a Gallup poll. No, it was a Rasmussen poll that said about 11% of Americans believe the White House when they say all of this is Putin's fault. Essentially, ain't nobody buying your ass, Grandpa. That was rude. I wanted to bring this comment up from Julie. Said he believes his own lies. This is the main question. This is the biggest question that everybody should be asking all the time of everyone. Who believes what they're saying? I do my best to only talk about things that I actually believe and bring you stories and have opinions that I actually believe and hold. But politicians don't do that. So the question that everyone should be asking, not only of the president, but of really any politician, Republican, Democrat, Independent, is what do they actually believe? Again, who knows? Maybe he actually believes all this stuff, in which case we have a bigger problem. Remember the whole tweet that he had last week of people at the gas stations need to lower their prices and talking about the individual franchise-owned gas station employees? That was either one, incredibly stupid and have no understanding of how that system actually works, or two, completely cynical. That's the thing. What do people actually believe? I don't know. That's the question we're asking constantly. Let's get to this. This is wild. Just hold on to your horses here. This is bananas. The state of Oregon. Now, I was just in Oregon last week, not this past weekend, but the weekend before that. I was in Bend, Oregon. And Bend and the surrounding areas, I know Oregon has this big, we're super lefty and super woke. But in reality, the not Portland areas of Oregon are pretty right-leaning in a lot of ways. They like the environment a lot, which who can blame them for that? It's beautiful up there. But somebody described outskirts Oregon politics as this: F taxes, eat organic. I can't say I disagree with those two sentiments. So that's Oregon as a whole. But for some reason, the majority of Oregon is driven by Portland and the crazy woke Antifa craziness that's going on in Portland. The wokeness, though, from Portland has permeated to the Oregon state government. This is from Reason Magazine, and I believe Robbie Suave is reporting on this. Give him credit where credit is due here for uncovering this story. The Oregon Health Authority, so not bury the lead here, they postponed a meeting because they said that urgency is a white supremacist value. I'm not kidding. We're going to read the article. We're going to explain what they think and go from there. The Oregon Health Authority is a government agency that coordinates medical care and social well-being in the Beaver State. During the pandemic, OHA was responsible for coordinating Oregon's vaccine drive and disseminating information about COVID-19, both vital tasks, says Reason Magazine. The agency's Office for Equity and Inclusion, however, prefers not to rush the business of government. In fact, the office's program manager delayed a meeting with partner organizations on the stated ground that, this is a quote from the email, urgency is a white supremacy value. Dang. Okay, so we have the government postponing meetings, and this is Oregon here. We have the government postponing meetings because urgency is a white supremacy value. Try not to laugh. I'm trying not to laugh. You also need to try not to laugh here because this is humorous. In an email obtained by Reason Magazine, Regional Health Equity Coalition Program Manager Danielle Droppers informed the community that a scheduled conversation between OHA officials and relevant members of the public would not take place as planned. First of all, I feel like the amount of words in your job title is directly proportional to how unimportant your job probably is. I'm not saying that for everybody, but I think the more that people try to add words to their job title, the less important their job actually is, and that title is trying to make an attempt to justify their position. I'm Regional Director of Equity, Diversity, Inclusion of Managerial Stances of the Department of Health and Human Services in the section of Mitigating Risk of Logistics Director. That seems like a very unnecessary job. What is it? Regional Health Equity Coalition Program Manager. That's a mouthful. That sounds like what the LGBTQ2 plus IA people are nowadays. There's too many acronyms. Anyways, moving on. This is what the email said. Thank you for your interest in attending the community conversation between Regional Health Equity Coalitions, RHECS, and community advisories to discuss community investment collaboratives, wrote Droppers. We recognize that urgency is a white supremacy value that can get in the way of more intentional and thoughtful work, and we want to attend to this dynamic. Therefore, we will reach out a later date to reschedule. Droppers did not immediately respond for a request for comment. There's so many things to go here. And what do you think about this in the comment section? Let me know. You know what? Next time your boss says, I need this report in at my desk by Tuesday, Jim, or else we're going to lose this big major client. You can respond to him by saying, urgency is a white supremacist value. What was the exact word? Urgency. Yeah, urgency is a white supremacy value, and we would like to attend to this dynamic. Excuse me, Mr. Boss. The urgency that you're showing makes me think that you're a white supremacist, and I think that we should attend to this dynamic. I should have used this in writing all my college papers. Sorry, Professor, I couldn't get my paper due in on time because urgency is a white supremacist value, and I'd like to attend to that dynamic. The email was sent from Dropper's state government email address and drew sharp rebuke from many who received it. One such community member replied, "I'm a person of color and I'm calling BS." Another recipient of the Health Equity Manager Medical Group said she was thrown by the claim. Please educate me on what you mean by urgency is a white supremacy value, she wrote. Also, I would like to know how this gets in the way of our health standards works. I have struggled this morning with how to communicate the reasoning for the postponement to the CAC, which is their group that's meeting in Oregon. So basically, a bunch of the relevant people of the relevant groups that were in this meeting were like, how do I explain this to my staff? Hey, we're not having the scheduled meeting today because white supremacy is urgency is a white supremacy value. I don't understand. Droppers did not follow up with her initial email with an explanation. A county health official, however, responded, I too was taken surprise and yada, 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 investigated, found. So basically they go into this the whole thing about this article about here's where this is coming from. And here's why it doesn't make any sense. Let me see. Thomas says, I still haven't gotten my white privilege cards yet. FJB and all of his supporters. Okay. So, yeah, I don't know. Ooh, Curtis has a great idea. Can we do this with our taxes? Yes, IRS/federal government. You know what? Urgency is a white supremacy value, and I wish to attend to this dynamic regarding submitting my federal income tax. Great idea, dude. But you know what? That is what it is. We're going to let Portland, I guess, continue to run Oregon, and Oregon continue to be at the behest of the Portland woke mob. And speaking of Portland, I wanted to get to this. This is a video that somebody sent me on TikTok, interestingly enough. If you haven't already, give me a follow on any of your social media accounts. Just type in JOBOB. You'll be able to find me pretty much anywhere. But somebody sent me this on TikTok, and I thought this was... Oh, that's funny. Hold on. We're going to read this comment section. Sorry. I'm trying to read the comment section and also talk at the same time. Never really a good idea. Somebody sent this to me on TikTok and said, hey, check this out. This is a crazy video. And I clicked on it, and it was a crazy video. Interestingly enough, I tangentially knew the person who posted this from college. I think I knew she was from Portland. Anyways, person in Portland, TikToker, Instagram person in Portland, in a car when an Antifa comes up. She expresses some fear at the beginning, and then, well, you'll see what happens. I'm not going to ruin the video for you. If you haven't already, please click the little like button or the little comment button, or sorry, the little share button over here, or give us a comment. Just engage with the post in any way, shape, or form, whether it's sending it to one of your friends in messages, clicking the little laughter thing, or the little scared thing, or the little angry thing, or the sad thing, whatever you feel is appropriate for your emotions at the current time. Really, really, really helps us out to continue doing what we're doing and stay on the air here. So if you wouldn't mind doing that, just really quick, little right down there. Anyways, here is the not so peaceful protest. Maybe it's a mostly peaceful protest in Portland, as documented by a young woman in her car.
Are they peaceful?
I hope. I don't know.
Oh my God! Abby, stay in the car. Abby, stay in the car.
You got that on video, right? Okay.
What the fuck? Should I tell Chris to come down?
What?
Do I need to do anything?
Yikes. So if you're just listening to that, big mob of Antifa protesters walked through Portland. Remember when Portland had like 2 back-to-back consecutive 100 nights? So it was 100 nights, and then I think they like took a break for a night, and then took 100 nights of consecutive rioting over the last couple of years. And apparently they're still marching through the streets and jumping on people's cars and doing all of those things in Portland. If you're just listening to that and you didn't quite understand what was going on there, they were filming a big mob of Antifa people walking towards their car. And one of them decided to jump on the hood of the car, break the windshield of the car, and just keep walking. Guess what? Nobody's going to be held accountable to that. Nobody's going to get arrested. Insurance is probably not going to cover it because they're like, yeah, you shouldn't have been driving around in Portland. I don't actually know that. I don't know insurance policies. But yeah, just bananas, the protests that are going on in Portland, Oregon. And speaking of protests, I thought this video was super interesting, kind of a, I don't know, just I didn't know how to feel about this. Well, This is the climate crazies are at it again. If you saw, who was the actor? Was it Jeffrey something? The dad from, I don't know, never mind. Oh, the dad from, Arrested Development, that guy. Glued his hand to the counter of a coffee shop one time. People are gluing themselves to the NBA court. They're blocking freeways in the name of climate change. Got another article from Reason Magazine. I believe Billy Binion was writing about it, and I thought his take was pretty great, sarcastic as it may be. But a bunch of people blocked a freeway in Maryland, which caused, supposedly, this guy you'll see in the striped red and white shirt to be late for work, which, according to him, was going to result in him going back to jail, as he is a parolee that has a job requirement as a part of his parole. Let me show you this video. Again, I don't know how to feel about this. Obviously, that goes without saying, the climate crazies blocking the freeway is an insane thing to do. I don't know what I would do. I probably would go like 2 miles an hour so I could avoid any like deadly assault with a deadly weapon of trying to kill people with my vehicle. No, I'm just going to go 2 miles an hour because they cannot stop my car, and I would probably just keep going through. Anyways, watch this video. This guy pleading with protesters who are blocking a freeway, which is incredibly illegal, and I feel like these people should serve jail time for this sort of thing. But without further ado, check this out.
And y'all are so inconsiderate. 495. Yo, please.
We're live streaming right now.
Come on, man. One lane. I'm asking one lane before I go to prison, bro. One lane before I go to prison.
For President Biden to declare a climate emergency.
Hey, come to the line. Go to jail for what you do. Hey, bro. No, I'm about to get ruined. If I don't have to work, and they take luck. Don't be for 9 years, and I can't get to work. I've been locked up 9 years, and these people won't let me go to work. I'm not.
All right, that's probably enough of that. It goes on for a little bit longer, but this guy is clearly trying to get through. So basically, his argument or plea, which, by the way, you don't need to have a reason to want to drive on the freeway. A lot of people say things like, well, I have a medical emergency, I need a job, I'm on parole, I need to go get to my job in order to avoid going back to prison. I have to poop really bad. Maybe that's a reason some people use to have to get through these dumb protesting barricades. But you don't need a reason. But this guy's reason seems pretty good. Hey, I'm on parole and I need to get to my job, and if I'm late, my parole officer is going to send me back to prison. But I also thought, is that legit? Is that like a real thing that can happen? Which found me onto another Reason magazine. Again, this is by Billy Binion of Reason, kind of describing what's happening. A group of activists on Monday blocked a highway in Maryland not far outside the Washington, D.C. area to pressure President Joe Biden into declaring a climate emergency. Okay. Apparently, Congress is just useless nowadays. They're already useless, but even more useless now. Because the president can just do whatever he wants, apparently. Or she, in case that ever... when that happens. Pressure Joe Biden into a climate emergency. Unsurprisingly, they didn't manage to accomplish that, but they did manage to accomplish something else. While we still have no climate emergency, we do have a bystander who may have just lost his freedom for the foreseeable future because he was prohibited from getting to his job by people who were illegally blocking a public interstate. This is where it gets interesting for me. Again, I was kind of asking, like, is that legit? Is that real? Can people actually lose their parole for not being on time to work? And apparently you can, writes Billy Binion in Reason. Parolees are subject to all kinds of ridiculous minutia that threaten to turn them back into criminals for minor infractions. They're often prohibited from drinking alcohol, for example, and indeed risk being thrown back in prison for breaking rules they didn't know were rules. Such is par for the course with this highway protest, which turned drivers into hostages. It isn't limited to this parolee. Okay, so to get this, so to clarify this, according to, I believe it was in this article, but also according to a bunch of people on Twitter, this guy actually was arrested. I don't know if it was because he was late for work and because he just started pushing people out of his way, which I think you can get arrested for some. I don't know. But this guy was arrested. Antonio with some insight here. Yes, it is a parole violation. Yeah, that's crazy. I honestly didn't know that until I was reading this article. But apparently you can be in violation of your parole for being late for work. Cheryl says what we're all thinking. They should all be in jail, not the parolee guy trying to get to his job, because I believe in second chances, and I think you should too. But the people blocking the freeways, yeah, not cool. People blocking the freeways. Oh, this is funny too. Curtis saying, wouldn't blocking cars on the interstate cause more climate damage? Yeah, that's a pretty dang good point, because now you got a bunch of cars idling and not getting to their destination in which they could turn their car off. Oh, that's funny. That's very funny. So anyways, I think this guy ended up going to jail, probably for using physicality on the people blocking the roads, which I don't think I have a problem with. But Binion continues in reason, such is par for the course for highway protests, which turns drivers into hostages. It isn't limited to parolees, who I'll add is the type of person who the left would fight for, generally speaking, when circumstances are more convenient. It also includes people experiencing medical or family emergencies, those in labor, etc., etc. In those cases, one wonders how many hearts and minds came around to the climate change, as the activists likely sent the man back to prison for the sake of the protest that he didn't move the needle one iota politically. I'd venture very few. Basically saying, how many people's minds were changed in that traffic jam? How many people were stopped behind those protesters and go, you know what? They're right. That's it. I don't think we should do this anymore. I think I'm gonna get out of my car and walk. The chances are absolutely nobody. But such is what we allow in this country nowadays. I think you should probably have some pretty harsh crimes for people who do this sort of thing, make political protests on public roads, and effectively, like he's saying, take people hostage. Bob says, highway blockers holding drivers hostage. So kidnapping? Maybe. Last but not least, this is kind of interesting. We brought this story yesterday. The Biden administration is apparently suing Arizona for making people show an ID to vote, which, again, I know a lot of you watch in parts of the country that, of course, you have to show an ID to vote. Is that a thing in places? But yeah, it's not a thing in places, especially in California specifically. I've never showed an ID to vote. It's kind of a ridiculous thing. When I go in to vote in California, you basically pick your name off of a list of registered voters by giving an address, which, I don't know if you know this, addresses are available to anyone via Google Maps. I, in theory, could just say anybody's address, and then when they say, okay, you are Mr. John Smith, I say, yep. And then I get a ballot and I get to vote. I don't do that. That is a federal crime. But I think the thought is, if there's any ability to cheat in elections, you have less trust in the elections. Whether or not cheating happens, the ability to commit voter fraud is just as bad and undermines the process just as much as actual voter fraud. I'll get off my high horse here. Anyways, Arizona Governor Doug Ducey responded to the lawsuit by the Biden administration on a radio show yesterday, and I thought his response was very, very, we're not backing downy. Check this out.
All right, let's talk about being sued for our voter ID law. Where do you think that's going?
Well, we'll see you in court, Mr. President. I mean, you've got to be kidding me. Everybody knows that you have to present voter ID, you have to be a citizen, you have to be a resident, and you should be alive on the day that you vote. In Arizona, we make it hard, if not impossible, to cheat and very easy to vote if you are a citizen. If the Biden administration wants to challenge that, we'll see them in court.
Dang. So that's it. Pam says, how hard is it to get an ID? We have to show voter ID here in Iowa. Yep. Everybody pretty much has to show voter ID. It makes the most sense. I don't understand why anybody would argue against that. I lied. I do understand. I do understand the arguments. The arguments are bad and not compelling enough to change my mind on this, saying that, well, some people don't have an ID or have the ability to get an ID. Yeah, they do. You can make an appointment with the DMV. And here's this. How about this? How about this compromise? Maybe compromise. If it's so hard to get an ID from the DMV, maybe we can all get together and say, hey, maybe the DMV needs to reform itself and not be such a freaking terrible government institution. How about that? Maybe we can compromise there. So that is it. Let's see. There's a couple people talking about oils being sent to around the world. Maybe we'll hit on that a little bit tomorrow. The United States, out of our oil reserves, are sending oil. So the Biden administration is saying we're going to use some of our strategic oil reserves, which didn't really help at all. But now those strategic oil reserves are being sent elsewhere. That's a big story in and of itself. I couldn't decide. Let me know in the comment section, how much do you guys care about UK politics, as the UK is somewhat of a driver for what's going on in the rest of the world? Boris Johnson yesterday resigned from the head of the Conservative Party in the UK. Yesterday? It might have been today. I think it actually was this morning, but today there, which is the time change, all that sort of stuff. He's going to stay on as prime minister until a transition takes place, but the Conservative Prime Minister Boris Johnson has resigned his post effectively. We can go into that because I think, again, it has something to do with where the entire world is going in terms of their politics. But again, I don't know how much people here care about that sort of stuff. So in the comment section, let me know, and maybe we'll get to that tomorrow more. But that's going to do it for us today. Appreciate you sticking around, tuning in. Those of you who watch the entire show, appreciate it every single day. Really, really, really do. Again, if you haven't already, give us a little like or engage. Give me a comment. What do you think about, I don't know, anything, literally anything, probably pertaining to the video makes more sense. But yeah, give me your thoughts, your comments. A lot of really mean comments in the comment section. So if you could keep it nice, we could bring it on the screen more. But that being said, really appreciate any of you tuning in. If you haven't already, click the little like button or the little heart emoji or the, I don't know, whatever it is that you feel appropriate, really, really does help us out. I can't tell you how much it actually does help us out. The Facebook algorithm is such that the more people engage with the post, the more it goes to people. And Daily Caller has like 6 million people on Facebook. And so the more people who like this, it starts a snowballing effect. So that's why I ask so often if you could just please click the like button, the little share button, the little comment section, whatever it is that your heart's content can help us out, get to more people. Anyways, let me see. If you haven't already, give me a follow on any of your social media platforms. Just type in JOBOB. Again, the running joke here is that the Chiron is wrong. The Facebook is just the Jobob. It's also that on TikTok. One of these days, it's going to get changed. That'll be a monumentous celebratory day, but that day is not today. You can follow me on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, all of the above. Let's see. Tomorrow, we're going to have a fun montage. Tomorrow, at the end of the show, we'll send you off into the weekend with a very, very nice long compilation of the president forgetting people's names. It was one of the funniest things I saw on Twitter yesterday. I didn't want to bring it today because we had so much to get to, but we will do that tomorrow at the end of the show to send us off into the weekend. But for now, that'll do it. I will be on OAN tonight. If you get One American News Network, I believe on In Focus. I'm not really sure what time that airs, but if you get OAN, want to check me out there, I'll be there tonight, this evening. And that'll do it. See you tomorrow. God bless America.